I know it's only been a few days since it came out, but I've got to ask the question, is Smile 2 one of the best horror sequels that we have ever gotten? I'm going to answer that question here in this video today. Welcome to my channel, Film Obsessed. On here, I talk about everything I love in the world of movies and television, and today spares no expense as we are talking about the new horror movie, Smile 2. It came out over the weekend, and it is a sequel to a unique horror film that came out 2 years ago with the first Smile that people have been eagerly awaiting to see. Having now seen it, I can tell you that the wait was well worth it. In this film analysis, I'm going to break down why it is a great sequel and what it sets up for the future that is going to be very interesting. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the video. Smile 2 stars Naomi Scott as a pop star named Sky Riley, who begins to experience a series of increasingly disturbing events as she is about to go on her first tour back after experiencing a horrible tragedy that changed her life. The sequel is also once again directed and written by Parker Finn, who made his debut onto the scene with the first movie. Parker Finn has somehow found a way to enhance such a unique concept that, while to some degree is not wholly entirely original, there are aspects about it that make for a great premise. I watched the first movie for the first time a couple of days ago before I saw the sequel, and I was truly blown away by just how terrified I was. I didn't know if the movie would hit me as hard as it did, but I was shocked to see that the premise actually was very effective. A lot of that is due in part to Parker Finn being the writer and director, but also who our main lead is for each film. Sosie Bacon was fantastic in the first movie and gave a really good performance. Naomi Scott, on the other hand, might have done even better in some regard here in the sequel. This is easily one of the best performances I've seen all year, horror movie or otherwise. She sells the idea of being haunted by this demon to great lengths. Combined with Parker Finn's amazing directing, these two give the movie a punch-up from the first, enhancing this premise to an even bigger level. Parker Finn's ability to craft jump scares in a way that does not feel lazy is so refreshing, given that this movie and this franchise is so heavily reliant on them. There were a couple of really good ones in this movie, and they were also properly done to the idea of what makes a good jump scare. Jump scares should only be used if they pertain to the story of the film and the actions of the antagonist that is supposed to be feared towards your main characters. Random jump scares don't do anything but just be thrown in there because a filmmaker lacks knowledge of horror creativity or some studio exec pushed them to put that in just randomly. Each and every jump scare with the movie is properly used to put Sky Riley in the position that she finds herself in for the whole entire film. This idea of having constant stress and anxiety, not knowing what is coming, and then when the jump scare happens, it puts her through all the emotions that she's going through when really terrible things happen to her that this demon-like thing is trying to get her to experience. Again, like I said, both Naomi Scott and Parker Finn sell it really well with his directing of her and the jump scares and her performance. The supporting cast was also fantastic too, from Lukas Gage, who is the one that actually gives Sky Riley the curse, Dylan Gelula as Sky's best friend, Rosemarie DeWitt as her mother, Miles Gutierrez, who plays her assistant, Peter Jacobson, who plays a somewhat important character later in the film, and then Ray Nicholson, the son of Jack Nicholson, who is in the movie for a very small amount of time, but also gives a great performance. I also think that these actors do a great job to sell another aspect of this premise that I don't see a lot of people really talking about a whole lot. It is the idea that the world of Smile, or whatever this thing is more representative in an allegory of some kind. Take notice at how our two main characters of Rose and Sky in both movies suffer traumatic events within their life. These traumatic events are what hold them down in some regard to other things that happen in their life, whether it's Rose dealing with her job as a psychiatrist and her fiancé, or Sky, who is this really huge pop star that's trying to get her career back up and running again. That is a career and profession that in no way, shape, or form is easy and can bring a lot of stress on your life. The way I see this franchise is that it's kind of like a commentary on what it means to deal with stress, trauma, anxiety, pain to a certain degree, whether mentally or physically, and how those things can corrupt you in other areas of your life, like losing sleep or fighting separation between your friends and family, as evidence to both our characters in both movies with what they go through. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that the scripts are really smart in how they have that come forward. I'm curious if anyone here watching this video has ever noticed that with regards to both our characters, because given they are the two that suffer through this, there are dots that can connect with each other to the points that I'm making here. Now, I'm going to go into some spoiler territory here, so you've been warned if you haven't seen the movie yet. If I had to knock the movie for one thing slightly, it would be how the rules of the world of Smile is set up. Now, I want to ask the question to you, the audience, first. Where do you stand on what this thing is that haunts our characters in both films? Do you think it is a demon-like entity because the way both movies end makes it seem like it is? Or do you believe it is some curse or supernatural thing that you see in other franchises like Final Destination, for example? Regardless, this demon entity, or whatever it is, seemingly had some of its rules bent within the film that I kind of wish were a little bit more consistent in continuity. At the beginning of the movie, we see a scene with the character of Joel, played by Kyle Gallner, who is in the first movie and was the last one to see Rose before she killed herself with the Smile entity. The second movie opens up with us following him as he tries to pass it off with the way the first movie describes how you get rid of it, which is by killing someone. These things don't go to plan for him, and that's when Lukas Gage's character Lewis comes in. He is the last person who sees Joel before he dies in the car crash that is shown in the trailer. But what makes no sense to me about the scene is that they never go through the actual progression of how somebody gets it. Joel didn't smile to Lewis once, and so in a way, the rule insinuates that the person who you see last will get it regardless of how you die. Another aspect of the way the rules are set up within how this thing works in the first movie is that you still go through your everyday life normally, where events of each day actually do happen. In the second movie, unless I missed something, that's actually kind of the opposite. As we follow Skye dealing with her downward spiral into madness and things get progressively worse for her, it's when we get to the very final scenes within the movie as she's trying to get this thing out of her that we come to find out that the demon-like entity has been playing with her the entire time since she first got it. So many of the events we saw throughout the film actually didn't happen, at least the way it seems. She seemingly didn't have a freakout at the charity event that she was asked to go to, she never fully got in contact with her best friend that she had a falling out with, and she also did not kill her mother in one of the final scenes before she goes off to try and get rid of the demon. Everything was all in her head right up until the very moment where she started her tour in the first event. In the first movie, Rose does go through a lot of her everyday life, even if everything that she experienced doesn't happen. So it's just weird to me that the movie goes through different ways of telling the story based on the rules that are set up within the world of this thing that haunts our main characters. Again, unless I missed something, that's just the way that it came off to me. But with that in mind, I absolutely do want to talk about the end of this movie, because holy shit, they actually went for it. Sometimes you see horror movies go for big swings on how they end off their stories, and I'm not gonna lie to you, this is one of the times where I, not to be on the nose, smiled with joy at how they ended it. When Skye wakes up to find that she's actually still back in time, ready to start her first tour concert, in the venue, she sees the demon in its final form, just like in the first movie, all bloody and disgusting in its design, which, by the way, is a really good design. As she goes through the process of allowing it to come into her, we see that when she gets back up, the camera shot is focusing on the crowd as we hear her batting herself away with the microphone as we cut to her on the floor, dead. It fades to black, and that's the end of the film. Now, if anyone didn't catch it already, what is so genius about this is that, again, if you know the rules of how this demon works, all those people in the crowd witnessed her in her final moments, meaning they now all have this demon curse on them. Parker Finn really said, fuck it, I'm going to go all out for this one, and made a potential third film even more enticing for someone like me to want to see it. I thought it was a great way to end the movie, and I hope more people talk about this. Now let's talk about my final thoughts and answer the question of if this is one of the best horror sequels ever. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie, and it was just able to sneak within my top 10 of the year so far. It's a really effective horror movie with good jump scares, some really grotesque and awesome violence, acting from our characters including Naomi Scott, who goes all out for it, and then some great direction and writing, of course, from Parker Finn, who is one of the biggest reasons why these movies are as effective as they are and allow people to keep coming back to see them. I have a feeling that, just like the first movie, this one is going to do really well at the box office and make some good money. So let's now answer that big question. Is it one of the best horror sequels ever? I think the answer is yes, but with a small caveat. It might not be a top 5 or top 10 best ever, but it is definitely up there in the top tier list of horror sequels. The horror genre has a lot of the time struggled to find a way to make good sequels, whether it's through original concepts or some more franchise-based IPs. I think that Smile found a way to break through just enough to where you can say that the sequel is better than the first movie and just overall a really good horror film. I had a blast in the theater with the crowd I had, and that is something I always hope to have in these kinds of films. So there you have it, my film analysis of the movie Smile 2. What do you all think? Leave your comments down below on what you think about the movie and my analysis of it. Thank you for stopping by my channel. If you want to see more moving forward from me with regards to film and television and you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you are new here and turn on that notification bell. I'm trying to build a community on this channel and your support would be greatly appreciated. That's a wrap, folks. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you all soon for the next video.